McAllister, Nicholas. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, McAllister, Nicholas. Greatly appreciate you. McAllister writes, do we draft a linebacker, wide receiver, or offensive lineman in the first round? If nothing else happens, and let's just assume for the sake of this discussion that we're having, that they don't do anything else of note in free agency. These are the three big moves that they're going to make. Everything else is going to be ancillary that they add to this team, and it's not going to impact their decision-making moving forward. So let's just assume Curtis Samuel, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and William Jackson III are all that they're going to acquire in terms of big names in the offseason. If they go into the draft with that setup, I don't think receiver is something you would do unless a guy that you had a top 10 grade on falls into your lap at 19. Don't think that's something they'll be looking to do. Similar to Dallas. Dallas wasn't looking to draft CeeDee Lamb. He fell into their lap and they're like, well, we would have just been cool re-signing Michael Gallup and keeping Amari Cooper and not having to worry about it. But if this guy's going to fall into our lap, I mean, really, what are we supposed to do? Pass him up? If something like that were to occur, where, you're sitting there and Devontae Smith falls into your lap. That's one of the guys that they've had an interview with, and they probably love him. And he just falls into your lap. I mean, how do you pass that up, right? So I think receivers out right now, to me. Not to say that they won't draft one. If you're asking me in the first round, I think receivers out. I think linebacker and offensive line, the more that I listen to people talk that are in the know with this team, the more that I feel like they want to upgrade the left tackle position. And this is something that I didn't take into consideration. My fiance, she's opened my eyes to so many things. And one of the things that she constantly tells me is that you don't wait until something is broken to replace it. And, for me, that's a novel concept, because if it's not broken, it's still good. Almost like Homer Simpson. Hey, it's a little scratch on it. It's still good. It's still good. Like, it's still good. We don't need to replace it. And she's like, no, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. If something needs to be replaced, if it's getting old or you could see it starting to break, don't wait until it actually breaks to then fix it. Then you're put into a position where you have to get a replacement, and maybe you have to now pay more money because you're desperate. Fix it while it still works. And so the left tackle position is a great example of, look, you got a bunch of guys on one-year deals, essentially. Jaron Christian in the last year of his rookie deal. Cornelius Lucas on the last year of a 2-year deal he signed last year. And they just brought back David Sharp on a 1-year deal. All of these guys, 1 year remaining on their contract. Do you want to wait until none of these guys are under contract, or do you want to get one while these guys have a year left on their contract? It makes sense to go tackle if a guy you love is sitting there at 19. That said, I think it boils down to linebacker and, offensive line and safety potentially. If they love a guy like Trayvon Moehrig and he's sitting there at 19, which I would assume he will be, I wouldn't rule that out either. So I think it's down to linebacker and offensive line, to be honest with you. But again, I wouldn't rule out safety either if they don't do anything at that position. So. And again, quarterback too. Don't take quarterback off of the table just because they signed Ryan Fitzpatrick. If Mac Jones is the guy they love and they covet, and he's sitting there at 19, I wouldn't be shocked if they pulled the trigger on him either. So, thank you for that super chat, McAllister, Nicholas, and doubling up. Armand Brown, thank you for the super chat, Armand Brown. Greatly appreciate you. Armand Brown writes, why can't Kendall play free safety? He did in Kansas City. Perhaps he said we can get cornerback too in free agency. Desmond King, perhaps. Desmond King already signed. I think he signed in Houston. So Desmond King is off the board. And there are plenty of veteran corners out there, but they're the high-priced variety. They're not a Desmond King. I think Desmond King signed for like $4.5 million or something like that in Houston on a 1-year deal. And he's more of a nickel, but I mean, he's played out wide in his career before. But Sure, Kendall could play free safety. Kendall could even play in the nickel, which we still, I think, have an issue at the nickel position. We're up and down there at best. So, you know, I wouldn't say that he can't play somewhere else, but until you have a guy that replaces him, you need him at corner. You're paying him to play the cornerback position. So I think until you find a replacement, and that guy could come via the draft, who knows? He's going to be your other corner right now until you find someone to replace him, you know? And then if you have another guy that you want to get on the field, that's when you're allowed to move Kendall Fuller around and maybe tap into that versatility that everyone's been talking about when we reacquired him from Kansas City. So we'll see what happens. Got another super chat. This next one is from Dave Thomas. Davey Thomas. Thank you for the super chat, Davey Thomas, who writes, thanks for all of your work first and foremost. Love the direction of the team. Do you think offensive line is in need of an upgrade, or do you want an upgrade? I wouldn't mind an upgrade. I told you, I don't think they're as hell-bent on upgrading and when we say offensive line, we can narrow the focus to left tackle. Like, they're not looking to upgrade guard. They're not looking to upgrade, you know, center, and they're not looking to upgrade right tackle. Like, if we're going to be honest about the offensive line, the only position they're looking to upgrade is left tackle, which is why they spent a third-round pick last year on Sadiq Charles. They're looking to upgrade that position. I've contended that unless they've already punted on Sadiq Charles as the left tackle of the future, which I haven't given up on, and I don't know if they have. I don't know how they feel about Sadiq Charles. If they say, you know what, we're just going to move him to guard and we're going to take our chances with the draft and getting a young guy. This is a deep draft at tackle. We like a lot of the players available. One should fall to us at 19. We're going to take somebody. If that's the thought process, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. If they say, nah, we're good. We got 3 guys on 1-year deals. We got Sadiq Charles, who we've got control over for the next 3 years on a rookie contract. Let's figure out what we have in this group. Because who's to say that Cornelius Lucas doesn't play even better this year than he did last year? You kick Sadiq Charles inside to left guard, and who's to say he doesn't tear it up at guard, and now all of a sudden you got a hell of a football player at guard, and Cornelius Lucas turns into a guy that you want to sign back on a 3-year, you know, $27 million deal in the offseason. Who's to say that that's not what happens? I don't know. So I said all of that to say this. I don't know how they feel about offensive line. I wouldn't mind an upgrade, but I'm not thirsty for one. A lot of people seem to be. I'm not thirsty for one if they aren't. If they are, I'm cool with it. All right, but I'm not parched. I'm not looking for a left tackle beverage right now. I'm cool. All right, but if they're looking for one, I'm not going to turn it down. I'll pop the top on it and take a couple sips. I don't mind. But if you're asking me if we need to upgrade, I don't think it's a need necessarily as much as it is a want to. So we'll see what they decide to do. I've said this all along. I actually don't know how they feel. That's the thing that I can't gauge right now. Is I haven't gotten a sense of how they feel about left tackle, how they feel about Jaron Christian or Cornelius Lucas or Sadiq Charles. I don't know how they feel about that particular position. Once we get clarity on that, we'll know if tackle is something they really desperately would like to grab early on in this draft or not. And I don't know if we'll really get a sense of that until the actual day of the draft and they make their selection. I think they're going to keep that information kind of close to the vest. Thank you for the super chat, Davey Thomas. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Big Money Sonny, who writes, Fitz is a good dude, but he ain't it for us. I'm sorry. Can people lay off the fairy dust and focus on a real solution? Who do you think it is, Lou? I don't know. I wish I had an answer for you. I mean, look, at the end of the day, don't for 1 second think that this is what Washington wanted to do. Don't think that Ron and Marty Herney and Martin Mayhew sat down and said, all right, our first objective is to find a way to get Ryan Fitzpatrick to Washington. That's not what they sat down and came up with when they tried to figure out how to upgrade the quarterback position. That wasn't their first choice. You know, what ended up happening is Matthew Stafford might have been their first choice. Well, he ended up with the Los Angeles Rams. So then you go to option number 2, whatever that was. And maybe option 2 was, hey, let's see if the Raiders are interested in moving on from Derek Carr. They turned them down. Okay, well, what about Mariota? That might have been option 3. And they might have said, we'll give him up. But you got to know this. If you trade for him, there are escalators in his contract that will kick in that will make him a little bit more expensive than meets the eye. Maybe that turned Washington off, coupled with the fact that they would have to give up compensation. I've all along said they're going to end up releasing Marcus Mariota. Why not just wait it out? If no one trades for him, and because of that poison pill in his deal, he was going to either be asked to restructure or he's going to be cut. We heard today that the Raiders have asked him to restructure. And if Mariota wants to play hardball, which if I were him, I would, because there's a small sample size. He was able to provide for us on a Thursday night versus the Los Angeles Chargers, in which he looked damn good. And people said, what about Marcus Mariota? Act 2. You interested? The fact that that conversation is being had right now should mean that he wants to get to take advantage of it right now. Because next year, if he doesn't play, if Derek Carr is healthy for 17 games, out of sight, out of mind, now you're not as hot. We just talked about Anthony Harris not having the opportunity to take advantage of his value being the highest it's probably ever going to be because he got the franchise tag slapped on him. Mariota has a chance to get an opportunity with all these quarterbacks that are out here or were out here and all these teams starving for an upgrade. He had a shot. That window is closed dramatically because teams have picked off guys to put themselves in a position to not be desperate come draft day. However, if Mariota becomes available, somebody may say, you know what, this is a better option than what we currently have. And he could either get a big payday or get an opportunity to prove he deserves a big payday. Either way, Mariota was probably option 3. They didn't do that. Then they probably called the Jets. What's good with you and Sam Darnold? Then they found out what the Jets were looking for. Maybe the Jets said, hey, we kind of still want to do our due diligence on these quarterbacks in the draft. We'll get back to you. Washington said, you know what? We're good on Sam Darnold. And so now you get down the list. You're at option 5. And they say, all right, well, what's the best option in free agency? And that's probably how they got to Ryan Fitzpatrick. Because when you look at all the options, I kept telling everybody, I don't want any parts of Jacoby Brissett. I don't want Tyrod Taylor. I don't want Andy Dalton. And, you know, there was one more quarterback, I think, in there that got a deal as well that we talked about, Cam Newton. And I didn't want him. So at this point, you know, you were left with slim pickings. I mean, what are you going to do? They went with Ryan Fitzpatrick. I don't love it, as I've stated already, but I understand the thought process. What's the answer? They don't know the answer. That's why they signed Ryan Fitzpatrick, okay? If it were that cut and dry, they wouldn't have signed him. If they knew they were going to get a quarterback in the draft, they wouldn't have signed him. If they love a quarterback in the draft and they knew they were going to have a chance to get him, they wouldn't have signed Ryan Fitzpatrick. Or maybe they would have because of the tutelage that guy would receive from being around a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick. But the real answer to your question is nobody knows. I don't know. They don't even know. That's part of the reason you sign Ryan Fitzpatrick, because it buys you time. It gives you another year to try to figure out the quarterback process and decision-making with that position, all the while still being competitive, which is what they're trying to foster in Washington. And they're remaining competitive. So I like you, don't think he's it. You know, it's as much as he sat there and talked about how he's playing the best football of his career, and the numbers actually do support that, okay? He's not wrong in saying that he feels like he's playing his best football because he actually is. And if you've watched him, you know that he's playing much more competent football. But there's still the track record out there. There's still the no playoffs. There's still the inconsistencies. But as he's mentioned, he is playing better. He is seeing the field better. He is anticipating better. And if you can catch this inside straight, lightning in a bottle, why not us? You know, that's ultimately where I am right now. Why not us? You know, he's been to, and the opposition to that, and this is what I've been saying is, why you? Okay? And a wise man said, why not us? My thing has been, I've been coming from it, the negative perspective. I've been looking at a glass half empty. Why us? Okay? Why is stop 9 for him? Why is team number 9 in year 17 going to be any different than the previous 8 stops in the previous 16 years? And the simple answer to that is, why not us? Why not us? A wise man once said, why not you? That's the real question. Why not you? Shout out to Mr. McCall for that one. Anyway, I can't tell you who it is. They don't know. I don't know. None of us do.